Imagine waking up every single day, for 45 years, in a prison cell. Not because you hurt someone, not because you broke the law, but because someone lied. And no one cared to question that lie. This is not a movie. It's not a story from a novel. This is real. This is the story of Richard Phillips. Richard was 25 years old, a young man living in Detroit, Michigan. He had a job. He played music in his spare time. He had friends, a family who loved him, and a dream to live a quiet, happy life. Then came 1971. One night, a man was shot and killed. It was a drug-related murder. Fast, brutal, no cameras, no witnesses who could truly confirm what happened. The police needed a suspect. They needed a name, and they got one. From another man who'd been caught for a separate crime. That man was desperate to save himself. He gave the cops a story, and in that story, he said Richard Phillips was involved. Just like that, Richard's life changed forever. He was arrested at home, no warning, no explanation, just cold metal on his wrists and silence in the air. Richard kept asking, "What did I do? Why am I being arrested?" But no one answered. They didn't need to. He thought it would all clear up. That once they realized they had the wrong man, they'd let him go. But the trial came, and it didn't feel like justice. There was no physical evidence linking him to the crime, no fingerprints, no murder weapon. Nothing but the word of one man, the actual criminal, trying to cut a deal. Richard told the court, "I didn't do this. I wasn't there. I'm innocent." But it didn't matter. The system had already made up its mind. The jury took just a few hours. Guilty. Life without parole. And just like that, at the age of 25, Richard Phillips was sent away for life. The first few years in prison were the hardest. Not because of the violence or the cold nights or the lack of freedom, but because he still believed someone would come for him. That someone would say, "We made a mistake." He held on to hope. He stopped celebrating birthdays. His family visited less and less. His mother grew old and passed away while he was inside. His children, who were just kids when he left, became adults. He missed every moment. Year after year, he watched new inmates come in. Some left, some never did. He saw men lose their minds. Others gave up completely. But Richard, he kept holding on. He spent his days reading. He refused to let his mind rot. He believed that the truth would come out. Someday. 45 years passed. Let that sink in. When Richard was sent to prison, phones had cords. By the time he got out, people were living on screens. Entire generations had changed. Presidents came and went. The world moved on, without him. And then, everything changed. A law clinic from the University of Michigan began reinvestigating old wrongful conviction cases. They came across Richard's name, and when they looked deeper, the cracks began to show. They found the man who had testified against Richard. He had a story to tell, and this time, it was the truth. He admitted it. He lied to save himself. He said Richard wasn't involved at all. The prosecutors reopened the case. The court reviewed the evidence, and they realized Richard Phillips had spent his entire adult life behind bars for something he didn't do. In 2018, after 45 years, the court finally set him free. He was 72 years old. No family waiting outside, no parade, no camera crews, just a quiet man, walking out of a prison gate into a world he barely recognized. He had no bank account, no home, no phone, just a few belongings in a plastic bag and an apology from the state. But Richard didn't let bitterness consume him. He started painting, using art to express what decades of prison had done to his soul. His work was raw, emotional. It told the story that words couldn't. People began to take notice. His art sold. His name appeared in headlines, not as a criminal, but as a survivor. He was eventually awarded $1.5 million in compensation. Money that might sound like a lot. But what is the price of 45 years of your life? Can you put a dollar sign on a lost youth? On missed funerals? On a mother's hug that never came again? He could have turned angry. He could have let hate destroy what was left of his spirit. But he chose peace. He says, "I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to let this break me now. Today, Richard lives a quiet life. He paints. He speaks to young people about justice and about the flaws in a system that nearly erased him. He forgave the man who lied, not because he deserved it, but because Richard deserved peace. And maybe that's what makes his story even more powerful. He didn't just survive injustice, he chose to live after it. There are others like Richard, right now, in prisons, in silence. People whose voices were ignored. People whose truths are still buried in the dark. The question is, are we ready to listen? If this story moved you, subscribe to Truth in Shadows. Because some stories don't live in the light. They wait in the shadows until someone is brave enough to tell them.